Okay, Bhante.
Okay, it is right on the dot, and let us begin our metta recital. May all beings be happy and secure. May
May
all
all
beings
beings
have
have
happy
happy
minds,
minds,
whatever
whatever
living
living
beings
beings there
there
may
may
be,
be, without
without
exception,
exception,
weak
weak
or
or strong,
strong,
long,
long, large,
large,
medium,
medium,
short,
short,
subtle
subtle
or
or
gross,
gross,
visible
visible
or
or invisible,
invisible, living
living
near
near
or
or
far,
far,
born
born
or
or
coming
coming
to
to birth.
birth, may
May
all
all
beings
beings
have
have
happy
happy
minds.
minds.
Let
Let
no
no
one
one
deceive
deceive
another,
another,
nor
nor
despise
despise
anyone
anyone
anywhere.
anywhere,
Neither
neither
from
from
anger
anger
nor
nor
ill
ill
will
will
should
should
anyone
anyone
wish
wish
harm
harm
to
to
another.
another. As
As
a
a mother
mother
would
would
risk
risk
her
her
own
own
life
life
to
to
protect
protect
her
her
only
only
child,
child,
even
even
so
so
towards
towards
all
all
living
living
beings,
beings,
one
one
should
should
cultivate a
cultivate a
boundless
boundless
heart.
heart.
One
One
should
should
cultivate
cultivate
for
for
all
all
the
the world
world a
a
heart
heart of
of boundless
boundless
loving
loving
friendliness,
friendliness,
above,
above,
below,
below,
and
and
all
all
around,
around,
unobstructed,
unobstructed,
without
without
hate
hate
or
or
resentment,
resentment, whether
whether standing,
standing,
walking,
walking,
sitting,
sitting,
lying
lying
down,
down,
or
or
whenever
whenever
awake.
awake.
One
One
should
should
develop
develop
this
this
mindfulness.
mindfulness.
This
This
is
is
called
called
divinely
divinely
dwelling
dwelling
here,
here,
not
not
falling
falling
into
into
erroneous
erroneous
views,
views,
but
but
virtuous
virtuous
and
and
endowed
endowed with
with
vision,
vision, removing
removing
desire
desire
for
for sensual
sensual pleasures.
pleasures.
One
One
comes
comes never again
again
to birth in the womb.
with this metta thought. Let us spend the rest of the time in silence, meditating. dukkha patta cha nidukkha bhaya patta cha nibhaya soka patta cha nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. Friends, with this metta thought in mind, let us try to answer the questions that Brian will read for me.
Okay.
Before we start answering questions, I had to make a correction to a mistake I made yesterday. Yesterday I explained the contents of Ratha Vinita Sutta, and I mentioned Madhupindika Sutta. It was not actually Madhupindika Sutta. I explained Ratha Vinita Sutta. And please straighten your record if you have recorded it. All right. Now you can ask me the questions.
Okay. Bhante, why does my mind keep jumping and moving about, not being in the present moment during Anapanasati meditation?
Well, you know your mind better than I, and you know why the mind is wandering here and there. Whether you practice Anapanasati or any other meditation, the mind doesn't stay focused on the subject, because I think I mentioned this earlier somewhere. When we try to focus our mind on very simple, practical, meaningful object like breath, the mind doesn't stay there, because we have trillions of things stored in our mind. Over the past many years, if you are 40 years old, you have collected material for 40 years through your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. You have seen countless things, heard countless things, smelled countless things, tasted countless things, touched countless things, and thought countless thoughts. Just imagine the amount of things that you have accumulated through these six senses, accumulated and stored in your mind. And actually 90% of them are gone, but very small percentage stays there. And that small percentage is a lot. So your mind brings them up to your conscious mind. And the mind stays there. And then one comes up, another comes up, another comes up, and so on. So the remedy is you can get rid of all of them by focusing on the truth of your life, truth of your experience. What do you experience? The breath. Breath is coming and going, coming and going, coming and going, coming and actually the speed that breath comes and goes, appears and disappears, is compared to other things appearing and disappearing, very, very slow. You have so many other memories stored in your mind. They come. So, you see them happening, coming into your conscious mind again and again and again and again. Therefore, since you cannot fight them, you join them. You join them and be aware of the impermanence, the breath and all other things appearing and disappearing at an inconceivable rapidity. So you have no way to stop it, except you join them and be aware of their rising and falling, rising and falling, rising. Then doesn't matter how many things come to your mind, you will see only one thing, that is impermanence. When your mind accepted this reality, you will be quite safe home on your own track, and therefore you cannot stop them coming and going unless you join them, meaning accepting this reality. And then once you accept the reality, your problem is that you try to reject the reality. You reject it. Don't reject the reality, but accept the reality and stay with the reality. Then nothing will bother you. You will be very comfortable. You know, when we say we gain concentration, what does it mean? Concentration is that the feelings, perceptions, thoughts, breath, all of them are working together in unison as one unit. You will see this very clearly. And that is why the Buddha said concentrated mind can see things as they really are. This is a very powerful statement. So, as all these things, they don't take turns. One time feeling arises, another time breath arises, another time memory arises. No, they all arise in one fraction of a second. And mind also joins them and stay noticing rising and falling and rising and falling. This, I mentioned several times, is called right concentration. Right concentration. Wrong concentration, you will have, you fall asleep. You don't notice anything. You say that you have deep concentration. What you really have had was a deep sleep. In right concentration, you don't sleep. In right concentration, you are fully 100% aware of what is happening, how quickly things change. And therefore, when you pay attention to whatever arising and passing away, as they arise and pass away, you naturally gain deep concentration to see the deepest and the subtlest changes taking place in you. You see, the changes are going on at two levels. First level is the subtlest level. Second level is the gross level, that is very clearly manifested, very clearly obvious. For instance, you see your skins are wrinkled. Skin doesn't create wrinkles very quickly. It takes long time, changing. One day you will see wrinkled skin. So that's what you saw very clearly is the gross level. What you don't see is the subtle level. So, of course, you don't see the skin making wrinkles in your meditation. You don't see that. But at least certain other things like feelings, the breath rising and falling, you can experience. They are subtle changes. For instance, when you breathe in, from the moment the breath starts coming in, it changes. It changes. If you pay attention, you will see how slowly breath comes in, changing itself, and how it goes away, changing itself. At least you can see that. Oh, feelings. Another thing, the way to notice the change of breath is the feeling of breath. And then you will notice whatever arises with the feeling, your consciousness arises with that feeling, your awareness, perception arises with the feeling, your attention arises with the feeling, and so forth. Everything arises in the feeling and passes away. So, this I wanted to take this much time to explain this in such a detail, because the wandering mind is a very natural, normal thing, and wandering mind becomes an object of meditation if you understand the nature of impermanence. Okay, next question.
The characteristic of existence, selflessness, reflects what it is not, but to rephrase what this characteristic is, could we also describe it as consciousness dependent on conditions and karma?
When we talk about the characteristic of existence, the karma and other things are not meant. Characteristic of existence are only three: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. These are known as the characteristics of existence. But if you say consciousness also has these three characteristics of existence. You mention anything, all of them have these three characteristics of existence.
Let me try to rephrase that, because I think what they're saying is that anatta is, as it's defined, selflessness or no self.
Yeah?
It's defined by negation.
Yes.
It's defined by what it's not. I think this person is asking, if we defined it by what it is, could we define it as consciousness dependent on conditions and karma? Could anatta be defined as consciousness dependent on conditions and karma.
That means you are trying to equate the anatta with consciousness.
They just want to define anatta as what it is, not as what it isn't.
Anatta is defined as not self. Not self.
Right.
Because there is a notion that there is self. And the definition of self is something permanent, eternal, immutable, everlasting, and so on. And Buddha said there is no such thing as permanent, eternal, everlasting. And therefore, you cannot call something which is always changing, altering, disappearing a self. So, I know some people, even though they read the Dhamma, read Anatta Lakkana Sutta and so forth, are not comfortable to accept that there is no such thing as self. And they want to define, if you define the self, you fall into the same category of those who believe in the self. Once you accept it and then define it, when you try to define it, you already have accepted to define it. And therefore, Buddha said, this is not self, this is not self, this is not self. When he said, this is not the self, this is not self, then people might ask, then what is the self? The Buddha said, there is no such thing as self. So, it is your term, you define it. I say there is no self, then you ask, you are the one who used the word self. You define it. What is your definition of self? So they define the self as permanent, eternal, everlasting, immutable. Buddha said there is no such thing. Period. Whether consciousness or karma or thought all fall into the same category of not self. Karma is not self, consciousness is not self, because karma doesn't fit into your definition of self, consciousness does not fit into your definition of self. Beside this, where can you find self? And therefore, when you start with the notion of self, then you always try to find a way to, go about it. You may say, by the same token, if we start with the notion that there is no self, then you might say that we are trying to find a way to prove that there is no self. Now, to prove that there is no self is easier than to prove that there is one. Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome.
You referenced something with a name and corresponding numbers for each day's talk. Would you please be so kind to enlighten me on the writings you reference so I may try to read more and follow along with you in a more skillful manner? I think this is just asking for references. Right?
Yes.
I think we can skip that question. We in the for the questioner, we the references for the suttas that Bhante G quotes are usually in the chat box, so you can usually find that in the chat box. We have a number of helper elves there in the chat box putting these references. So next question. Dear Bhante G, could you please kindly explain the word liberation in Buddhism? Is it liberating the mind from sakaditi or understanding papancha, or both?
I see. Yeah, liberating from all, from both. Liberating from papancha, liberating from sakkayaditi, liberating from everything is called liberation in Buddhism. Once we are liberated, we are liberated from whatever we think of. We are liberated, and that is what liberation means in Buddhism. It is not some kind of temporary liberation and stay in some superhuman level forever. That is not the kind of liberation that Buddha talk about. Liberation from everything, which includes mentality, materiality. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. I have come across in my readings the terms Sankhata and Asankhata, and I'm afraid I do not quite understand them. Does Asankhata refer to Nibbana?
Yes, Asankhata refers to Nibbana. Everything else is Sankhata. Sankhata is that which comes into existence through causes and conditions. Whatever comes into existence through causes and conditions is called Sankhata. Sankhata. Nibbana is not Sankhata. Therefore, it is called Asankhata. That is why Nibbana, we find it extremely difficult to define and explain in terms that we already use in our life. Whatever terms we use to describe Nibbana, then we may get into confusing state. Nibbana is described as etam santang, etam panitang, yadidam sabba sankara samato, sabbo padi patinisaggo, tannakayo virago nirodho nibbanam. This definition you can see in Girimananda Sutta in one place. There are many places. Girimananda Sutta. Girimananda Sutta you find in Anguttara Nikaya. There Buddha gave various 10 kind of perception. Perception of what you call peace. And that is where this definition. That means this is peaceful, this is Detan Santa, this is pleasing, pleasant, Sabba Sankhara Samato, to calming all the Sankharas, Sabba Upadi Patinisagad, abandoning all attachment, all assets, Parnisago, Tanhakayo, cessation of craving, Tanhakayo, Virago, a cessation of clinging, Nirodho, cessation, and Nibbana. All these words are used to describe Nibbana, none of them implies Sankhara. Therefore, Asankhata is that which comes into that which we realize. Say, for instance, I give you one example, it's a crude example. Suppose you give dana without greed. When you give dana without greed, when the at the end of that giving, greed does not exist, because you begin without greed and end also is without greed. If you give dana with greed, then it will never end, because greed perpetuates more greed. So non-greed perpetuates non-greed. That is one example. So it is greedless, attachment free, just peace and peace and peace. That's all we have to say. Okay, another question?
Okay, let's see. Dear Bhante, you mentioned that we have to investigate Dhamma in ourselves. However, I've been practicing to look at material things as elements, looking at them as comprised with many parts, not as a whole object, and looking at them as elements and parts of the body to reduce my attachment and lust. Is this investigation of Dhamma, although these things are not in me?
Well, investigation of Dhamma is much subtler than that and more profound than that. It is, say for instance, whether you have this part, this is called sort of atomist's way of analyzing things. We are, by doing so, you cannot get rid of your desire, cannot get rid of your craving. You simply keep analyzing it. That, of course, is a method, some method. But Buddha's way of investigation is how Dhamma interact with your life. For instance, when I give you very same example again and again to make it clear, whenever greed arises, your investigating mind should be able to ask the question, is this greed brings me peace or not? That's the question. Is this greed breeds peace, or if this greed breeds grief, sorrow, lamentation, and so on. If you have a hatred, your investigating mind will ask you, does this hatred make me happy? Or do I try to justify this hatred, to perpetuate my hatred? Is this caused by me, by somebody, or both, or none? These are the questions you ask yourself. Then you will have answers. This hatred is not created by me, not created by others, but depending on various factors, this arose in me. What are the factors? Number one is ignorance. Ignorance. When without knowing the pain that you cause yourself due to anger, you get angry. And then you will see the connection between anger and your pain and suffering. Like this, you have to see the mental states. Physical states, anybody can investigate, anybody can analyze, like physicists. Physicists are specialists who know, who can analyze the physics, the bodily parts, up to the subatomic particles. But the Dhamma is much deeper than that. It investigates the mind to know how we inflict suffering upon ourselves through not understanding the connection between ignorance and desire. When we don't understand the connection between ignorance and desire, we do things that brings suffering to us. And we must ask this kind of questions when we meditate. So, your Dhamma is suppose you have you practice metta. Metta is a Dhamma. It's a wholesome Dhamma. Hatred is unwholesome Dhamma. Greed is unwholesome Dhamma. Letting go is wholesome Dhamma. You investigate, when you let go, do you experience peace or suffering? Or would you be free from suffering, or you inflict suffering upon yourself? So, this kind of questioning we will do through investigating Dhamma. Here Dhamma means various mental states. Various mental states mean on the one hand there are negative mental states, on the other hand positive mental states. And even positive mental states can also confuse us because we think certain thing is positive, but eventually that positive thing also can lead to pain and suffering. Why? Because underneath the positive thing there can be either greed or ignorance. And these are the things we investigate by asking questions. I think, friends, I think I answered most of the questions this morning, and I hope my answers are clear to some extent. If the answers were not very clear, you can ask me further questions without any hesitation. I'll try to answer them. So I want to share our metta once again and wish all those who are in pain and suffering because of this COVID-19. Millions of them are suffering, and thousands of them are already dead. And we want to wish all those who are suffering from COVID-19 recover very quickly and return to normal health and continue their wonderful Dhamma work. And those who have lost their relatives and friends, loved ones, due to COVID-19 and they may be grieving, may they be free from grief very quickly and attain to peace. And there are many wonderful physicians, doctors, nurses, other hospital staffs, other facilitators to take care of these patients. Many of them do their wonderful job with a very good intention, sacrificing their own life. They take risks to help these people. Unfortunately, even some of them get this virus, and may they be free from that and may not get infected with this virus and continue their wonderful service. And there are many people who are generously contributing to invent vaccine, and now it will soon be distributed, and that will help people to be free from this virus. And then those leaders who have been doing very wonderful job to help these people to recover from COVID-19 and also to prevent them from getting COVID-19. May they continue their far-sighted, insightful service. And other leaders who have not yet come to that understanding, may they have that understanding and perform their duties with mindfulness and insight and wisdom to help these people. With this, I want to end this morning session and say,
Yeah, look at that.
and thank you all for participating in this sermon.
Bhante, is this the next time we meet?
Yeah?
Is that the next time we meet?
Yeah, next time we meet on the, I think, 3rd of December.
Yeah, okay.